Hi, my name's Angus Campbell and welcome to my world of the BSA Powerset 1971. I've been a British biker since my teenage years in the late 70s, and I just missed the demise of BSA in the early 70s, but I've always been very interested in the Powerset range from 71, and I've been lucky enough now to secure a small collection of these bikes following an interest initially years and years ago in the BSA Fury of all bikes. So let me give you a tour around, show you what I've got, and this will act as an intro then for me providing future videos on maintenance and also on restoration of motorcycles from the early 1971 BSA range, specifically the Dove Grey models. So this is a general view of the man cave from one of the front doors. You can see the workbench at the back on the right with some photographs and memorabilia above it, and then on the right hand side we've got bikes either complete or in various stages of restoration, and also on the left another bike in the early stages of restoration. So let me take you through these briefly. So what got me interested in all this was the BSA Fury from 1971. Not a very good view of it just here, but I will dig it out a little bit later on and give you a walk round. But essentially this is the ex Vale Onslow BSA Fury, and therefore also the ex BSA press release Fury from the Royal Lancaster press release from November 1970. This bike ended up at Vale Onslow on display, and actually Vale Onslow did include it in some articles in MCN in the mid-70s or so, when they said they were particularly interested at the time in seeing if anybody was interested in purchasing it. They got a whole host of inquiries about this bike, to the extent where they decided to keep it. I kept in touch with them, and then in 1991 I happened to visit Vale Onslow and started talking to them about my interest in the bike again, and I caught them at the right time whereby they needed some cash. The three Vale Onslow brothers wanted an amount for the bike which they could split three ways, and a deal was done, and that's how I acquired it. This is not a running motor. This is one of the this is the empty show bike. It's also the same bike that was photographed for the press release with Karen Young, the model at the time, one of the three models with Carol Cleveland and Karen Gardner, who used to model for BSA Triumph. And I've kept this original and unrestored, and the original intention was to try and scour the world for parts to make this into a runner, but that changed when I was again in the fortunate position of coming across someone who had collected a whole host of parts for BSA Furies, and I bought that as a job lot, to the extent where we could then begin building another Fury, which is this one here, and which I'm building up as a Fury SS, and the rolling chassis of this has been completed, and the engine is away at the moment with an engineer having some specialist work done to that, and we hope to have the motor back within a few months anyway, so we can undertake the final build of that and complete that build. So this isn't a restoration, this is a build from scratch from parts that have been accumulated from various sources. So that means that the original Show Fury will keep as is, totally original, unrestored, untampered with, just effectively as a show bike, and this bike here will actually register on the road as a runner, and in this case with this one as well, we're going to include the optional electric start and have that functional as well. So that's one of the ongoing projects. You will have also seen from me my first video on YouTube, which was the completion of a build of a Triumph Bandit T35 SS, and that belongs to a friend of mine, and we did a deal whereby I could we could swap parts between us, and I could take any parts from his stash that I required to complete this Fury, and in return I said I would build his Bandit up for him and complete that bike, which he had been in the process some years ago of building up from parts again before he came across another ex-factory Fury, which was a runner, and so the Bandit took a back seat, part built, and what I did was took the Bandit, stripped it down and started again, and built that what was an experimental motor EX3 up into a running bike, which you can see in my original first video. So that gives you a bit of a history of interest in Bandits and Furies, and how we've got into a fairly small sort of select circle of hopefully knowledgeable people that know quite a bit about these motorcycles. Then we move on to a more recent acquisition, which is the Rocket 3. I've had this a couple of years, and this is actually an A75V 5-speed built in January 1971 for homologation purposes for the Daytona races, the triple races in general of 1971. I had this a couple of years. Most of the restoration was done by somebody else, and it's a pretty good job, but I've had to do a bit of work in tidying this up and also attend to some mechanical issues with the motor, but those have all been rectified now, and it runs very well, and this is the bike that I use as my runabout, and also which I show as well. And this bike was at the Stafford show last year in 2017, alongside the Show Fury, which I took along, and just as a comparison, and which had been shown a couple of years before that at Stafford. The intention is that we hope to show the Fury SS complete at next year's Stafford show, so looking forward to trying to complete that. However, the final piece of the jigsaw is that there's yet another bike now being built up, and this is a 1971 A70 Lightning, purchased relatively complete, matching frame and engine numbers, but the motor has thrown the left-hand rod, but luckily not damaged the cases, and the crankshaft is repairable, and we've managed to secure pistons and rods, as there are pistons about, but the cranks are pretty scarce. So I've only just begun to build this one up. Now parts are being painted and restored, and in fact this morning I went to pick up the wheels, which have been totally rebuilt. So as you can see, I haven't really started on the motor at all yet, other than we know what the problems are with that and how to get that rectified. We've begun to build the rolling chassis, and there's a separate video already which I'll post shortly on rebuilding the forks which are there, and then we've got various parts that have been secured and sub-assemblies ready to be installed as we progress the rolling chassis build. The next major element of this now will be to create a rolling chassis, because we now have the parts to put the steering yokes in, the forks, and put the wheels on, and we've also got the main stand and mainspring as well, so we'll have a stable rolling chassis to take this forward. So there we are. That's, if you like, my stable, my man cave, and over at the bench at the moment, which is reasonably clear, above that we've just got some memorabilia regarding previous B-Zumps, previous bikes, an original poster of from Triumph BSA of the Champion of the Glory Trail, showing well-known races over there, particularly the AMA number 1 plate races. And that then just about covers everything off. So that's an introduction to me and my interests and my hobbies, upon which we'll base this channel. And I hope that you'll enjoy some of these videos, and that some of them as well will be helpful in maintaining bikes such as this, a number of which, certainly with respect to the triples and the more common than A65 650s, hopefully will be helpful. So thanks very much for watching, and hopefully in the near future I'll start posting some videos on a fairly regular basis, but the first one of which will probably be a bit more of a history of the BSA Show Fury, with a number of photographs showing its provenance. So once again, thanks very much, and look forward to any comments. Thanks again.